Hello, everybody. And first of all, big apologies for being a little late today. Thank you very much for your patience. Sometimes unforeseen things come up more often than we'd like, but I'm delighted to welcome here today. Pennykelly is joining me once again. Penny, it's so wonderful to have you here today. Thank you. And really, I'd love you to talk a little, please, if you would, about your latest book, The Revival, which is just an amazing book. If you haven't seen this book, well, thank you. It's amazing. And it's so important for the time that we are stepping into now. So thank you, Penny, in your true Capricorn way. You are giving us a structure of possibilities of what we can do step by step, practically, bringing us down to earth with the magic and miracles that are possible, but showing us a roadmap as to how we might do it. So over to you, Penny.
Okay, that's it. And I just want to say thank you for having me, and to everybody for coming and sharing thoughts. I was kind of looking at the comments while I was waiting for Braca and thought, oh, well, people are so wonderful. I think that is what distinguishes the new people, the new consciousness people, the new earth people. They say, hi, I love you, good to see you. It's such a stark contrast from the trolls and the people that are really negative. So thank you to all of you out there. Oh my gosh. So another thing I wanted to say is I was getting ready for this morning for this talk, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go get Braca's cards, because Braca has a deck of cards that let's see, here we go, the Pleiadian Oracle deck. So I get the cards out and I shuffle them, and this is what I pull. And it says, you are a miracle magnet. And I had decided before we started that this would be our theme for this talk. And when I saw that you are a miracle magnet, I thought, you know what? All of us here on this channel, everybody listening, we're the miracle workers. We're the people making the miracles for the new earth, new world. So I love that. It's really great. And with that, I'll just kind of say, or start, I wrote this book, The Revival. I've been writing it for 40 years in my back of my mind. And it's what I do. I survey the sector, and here's, what is that sound? Am I making that noise?
Yeah, there's some interference. Daphne, is it something I'm doing? Do I need to turn something?
You just need to mute your mic. Sorry, I had to come in. You just need to mute your mic when you're not talking.
It's me.
Yeah, it's you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought it was me. So and I look around the world, literally, and I read around the world, and I watch and I listen to what's happening in these different sectors of our world. And then that allows me to kind of gauge, are we getting anywhere? Are we pulling out of this misery and into something that is beautiful and works well? And, people have an option to be happy and find a little bit of joy. So I wrote the book. There's like 3 things I want to share. I wanted to set this framework of understanding around this whole process that we're in. The book is about paradigm change. We're in a paradigm change. And if we don't recognize that and we don't put a frame around that, then it's really hard to make it through that change. And I often think back to the little man in brown robes saying, if you don't have a vision of what you could create, where you could go, how you could be, or what you're doing, if you're not looking at yourself, then you're not going to survive. I mean, it was that blunt. And I often think about that, and I think, okay, we need to see where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going, and to hold on to that vision. And so the book was really about setting that framework up in order to help people to identify what's really happening. And another thing was I wanted to introduce the KINS networks. I don't think people know, and it's a little bit premature. I don't think we're quite ready for some of the things that are being created out there to come together to make a whole system. But oh my gosh, I'm in touch with a few people working on new governance systems, new community governance, new economic systems, new money systems, new science, new medical, new education, and they're phenomenal. And so that whole idea of introducing at least some of these new things, I didn't introduce all of them, I just introduced the KINS networks. And KINS, KINS, stands for Key Influencer Network Strategy. And it's a way of pulling community together to accomplish something. And Susan Davis, who is the instigator of these, is she's in her 80s now, but she started way back. She was a vice president of Harris Bank, among a number of other things. She has an amazing book out called Trojan Horse of Love, and she started way back in the, I'm going to say the 70s or the 80s, with the women's movement. And then because she was involved in money, recognizing that nothing was going to change if the money didn't change. And so she made a commitment to change the people who had money and make them aware of what we were doing to the world with our money. And so she made it her business to get to know everybody on a pick up the phone and talk basis, everybody who was in the millionaire, billionaire class. And she met most of them. She introduced me to most of them. And they are, I think the thing that is important to understand is that, yeah, there's some people that are in the class that I call the naughty boys, naughty girls. But in that same millionaire, billionaire class, there's a whole bunch of really good-hearted people who are saying, I give and give and give, and nothing ever changes. What do we need to do? And what we need to do is change the consciousness. So that introducing KINS and getting people to understand how to pull a small group together to get something done, whatever you want done. Whether it's figuring out solar for your community or figuring out food systems for your community or financial systems, etc. The Seeds group, Seeds crypto, Seeds tokens, that's a financial system that I think is up and coming. So all of those things are pieces of our future, but we have to prepare for that. So the third thing is I wanted to, and I'm just going to read this the way I wrote it, and I may have to repeat it because it's got big words in it. Okay. I wanted to get people to grasp the complexity, the power, and the comprehensiveness of consciousness, because that's what creates the world. So let me say that again. I wanted to get people to grasp the complexity. In other words, it's not one thing. It isn't one evil guy. It isn't one bad bloke in a system somewhere. It's a complex kind of thing. And that complexity is something we have to take into account and work with. And it has power. I want people to get to their own power and to understand the comprehensiveness of consciousness. Everything you see out there has been put together by our consciousness. Every single thing. It's overwhelming when you think about it. So those were the main reasons. And then I think let me say it this way. For years, we've been talking about the cabal, the bad boys, this system, complaining, reporting. Now they're doing this. Now we can't do that. Now we have to do such and such. Lots and lots of talk, but none of it is really addressing where are we going? How do we get here? And so the book is really, it's a workbook more than anything else. And it brings us to this place of examining, okay, what have we got? How do we make that? And it introduces, I have seeded in the millions of questions in the book, these questions that get you to think about the future and get you to think about, what if this little thing changed? Because everybody's waiting for this massive change. We're going to wake up one day and it's all going to be over. All the misery is gone. Well, that's not going to happen. So the idea was to begin introducing concepts and to look at each sector and what is the legacy of that sector, and to say, if this is the legacy, how do we fix this? So that's, what I would say about what I was doing. There's probably, I'm already going to upload a revised couple things that I want to add to the book. So it's only been out for a month. But I think that's really important to add some of the things that I probably should have put in and didn't think about it at the time. Plus, hang on one second. I have this chart that I've been keeping for quite a long time now, and I finally put it on paper, on official computer, in the computer, not just on scraps of paper, all paper clipped together. But it's the differences between third dimension, fourth dimension, and fifth dimension. And the book is an attempt to move us out of 3D thinking and behavior and into 4D. And so back in, for the last 6 months, I started really making an effort to visit other dimensions and look at, okay, what's different? What's really the core difference? Because people are talking about ascension and all that kind of stuff. And so I put these, I started making notes. And in 3D, this is how it is. In 4D, you have to go there. And you have to be there for a little bit, work with people, experience something in order to get a feel and a clear perception of why are they doing that? What is that? What is the assumption behind that? What is the basis of that? And so even though I didn't really say it as clearly in the book as I probably should have, the goal was to move us into fourth dimension. So I'm going to upload my chart, this is one of the older ones. And it's got another half a page and a half added onto this that really lays out what are the differences. So, and a few typos. Somebody was wonderful enough to say, hey, you have typos on these pages. So that's really kind of a capsulization of the book. So.
Myself. Thank you for that, Penny. It's wonderful. I think that the question that comes up in my mind at this point is, can you possibly summarize? Because I think people are excited now. This book is taking us from the third to the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
What would be like if you could give us maybe 3 or 5 big differences that we're working towards? Would you be able to somehow clarify that? Yeah, so that we can be with you on this. Yeah, I'll mute myself.
So let me refer to a conversation I had with Daphne either earlier this week, I think it was earlier this week, and we were talking about fourth dimension. And so we're doing this in the conversation, and I'm trying to explain. And what I realized was that there was a perception, not just in Daphne, but I think in a lot of people, that the move into the fourth dimension is going to be all beauty and light and butterflies and angels and magic and jewels and all that. And that's not the case. So I think the first thing that we have to recognize is that fourth dimensional people and their system look just like third dimensional people and their system in terms of the outer stuff. They have cups, pens, books, beds, houses, jobs, or not jobs, they have work. Jobs do not really exist. They have a role, and in that role they perform certain kinds of work. But they're fully physical. There's no change. I'm going to say there's no change in physical density, but there is a change in their physical chemistry and in their energetic composition, their frequency set. But we don't have ways to measure that. And so at first glance, it just looks like more of the same. Okay, so get away from the idea that we're going to float off on the wings of butterflies into some other dimension. So that's one thing. I'll just offer the first, few that I have on my list here. The fourth dimension is cooperative, while the third dimension is competitive. There is zero competition in the fourth dimension. And the cooperation extends from human to birds, human to insects, human to plants, animals, and machinery. It's a very cooperative and highly aware and conscious dimension. Okay, and I'll just share, years and years ago, that I had access to a machine that could be managed by your consciousness, by telepathic consciousness and your energy system. And and what you did was you laid on this bed, and there were all these sensors all around you, and you had the machine turn up the music. It would play music, and you could turn it up, you could turn it down, you could do different things with it. I'll just leave it at that. But it took me about 2 minutes to figure out how to manage that system. And my husband, I was married at the time, would get on the bed in the machine, and he would lay there and say, well, what do I do? what do I do? And he never was able to figure out how to manage, how to use his energy system to make a difference in that machine. And I got into trouble a couple of times because I thought, well, how far can I turn this up? And the whole building was complaining, what the heck, who's got the music up to, 5,000 decibels or whatever it was. And so I think that kind of cooperation, that kind of communication with equipment is one of the characteristics of the fourth dimensional people. And they have engineered their metals, material science, and the configuration of their equipment to respond to human consciousness, to be conscious, and so therefore can enter into an interaction. So that's another thing. Third dimensional people are very, very aggressive. Fourth dimensional people are very defensive. They are not aggressive at all. However, they will defend themselves, and they have developed technology that is kind of mind-blowing, that allows them to defend themselves without having to engage in anything aggressive. So, and they use energy shields very effectively, very. So that's another thing. The third dimensional people are based on winner takes all, and the fourth is do no harm. So we not only win, but we sort of rub the other guy's nose in his loss, that kind of thing. The idea that one person, winner take all, is a viable, sustainable model for interaction. It has gotten us to people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and many of these super rich people who are just busy accumulating all the money. It sits in their accounts, and the rest, 99% of the people are trying to get by on the few dribs and drabs that are left over. Winner take all is not a viable solution. So fourth dimensional people are focused on do no harm. And that's it's a very, very different application. When you are selfish, you are harming somebody. So, and there are many different ways to look at that. Third dimensional people, communication is limited to written, recorded, or actual voice and vision kinds of things. Fourth dimension is very telepathic, really telepathic, nicely telepathic. So those are some, wait, there's one more I want to say. The third dimensional people are very utilitarian. They use whatever material they can get their hands on, regardless of, the consequences. So they'll blow up the mountain, they'll dam the rivers. They dig giant mines, holes in the earth, etc. They suck all the oil, which is kind of like the earth's blood, out of the earth. So that's utilitarian. Fourth dimensional people are what I call beginning generative. Fifth dimensional people are fully generative, but generative means having discovered how to manipulate frequencies into patterns that produce the material you need. So you're not messing up the earth, stealing or ruining or clear cutting the forest or damming up the rivers, etc., in order to get some power, electricity, lumber, water system, whatever. So they generate what they need right out of source. So, and they're beginners at that. They don't have everything figured out, but they have a lot figured out. So a lot more than we do. So those are some differences. And there's some more that I'm going to add this to the book so that people can see the difference.
This is so, I'm getting goosebumps with everything that you're sharing here, actually, Penny, because you started out by saying this book is about the paradigm shift. Yes, right. We are in a paradigm shift, and it's a paradigm change. And all the things that you're talking about here between the third and the fourth dimensions, they translate so beautifully with the astrology that's coming up. For example, this month, and I'm going to, it's like just amazing because later I'm about to do a video all about this because for the first time since the 1770s, we've got a shift of Venus energy. The Venus star will go into Libra, and Libra is the sign of peace and harmony. It's the first time. Nobody's lived through this. Nobody has actually, who's alive now,
right,
lived through this. And we're moving away what has been predominantly, the Venus star has been predominantly Mars-oriented, non-cooperative, aggressive.
Yeah.
Fracking, digging, pushing, bullying, hurting another.
I know.
And this is the energy that we've been working with. Now Venus changes its frequency. And it's a massive, massive shift. We move with an opportunity for cooperation, for collaboration, for gentle use of resources.
Yeah.
A new music, because Venus would rule music. And a new type of music. So, I mean, everything that you're saying here. And then when you talked about communication with equipment. Well, in March, Pluto goes into Aquarius. Briefly, we get this taste of Pluto. And this has to do with how can we use our consciousness, Pluto, our power, with the technology, with the equipment that we have.
Yeah.
How can we use that? So it's like you're really tuned in to all these aspects that are coming up, Penny. So thank you for, sharing
When does
that.
that Venus energy start?
October the 22nd.
Oh wow.
22, 10, 22. It's
Wow.
all those twos, which is about how do we collaborate? How do we do partnerships? How do we do relationships?
Yeah.
How can we make music? How can we make harmony? How do we bring peace? All of that is getting activated for the first time in 250 years. So it's like, wow. So thank you for sharing that. It's like this really beautifully ties in. So what I'd love you to, perhaps if you would talk a little bit more now, because what I really love about your book is that you've made it into a series of workbooks.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Could you talk a little more about that? Because it was like, wow, this is so valuable.
Well, thank you. So the idea, the structure of the book was to look at the 12 sectors of life. And those sectors are governance, humanity itself, people, humanity, medicine, agriculture, education, religion, science, money, business and trade, planetary stuff. And there's one other.
The arts.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the art's so expressive. So the idea was to look at each sector, and then in a small part of the book, maybe at the beginning of each sector's chapter, to talk about where are we at with this, and what is the legacy, and how will changes in other sectors affect this one, because it's all interactive. So then that was followed by what I call the workbook section, and it's just a whole bunch of questions that are designed for an individual to just read through and kind of answer inside themselves if they are working alone, or to work with a partner if they have somebody who's interested in talking with them about this whole shift, or to bring it into a group and use it as a handbook for group discussion and to discuss those questions. And there's some of them have 140 questions, but the questions are intense, and they get you to look at things that maybe you haven't really looked at before, or maybe don't want to look at, but we need to. If you're going to have power, you can't hide. That power has to be transparent, and that is really, really important. And you can't have that transparency when you have fear or lack of trust. So the whole thing was designed to work people through, or walk them through the steps that we have to take in order to get to a new earth and become new people with a different consciousness. And by the time you get to the end and you've worked your way through all of the workbook sections, there's 12 workbooks, one for each sector, you will be thinking differently and have a different kind of awareness. So that's the structure of how I laid it out.
I mean, it's just those questions.
Yeah.
I don't know how you managed to come up with so many really excellent questions. Yeah, I was reading. Wow. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, they're obvious when you think about it. A lot of the questions are really, there's so much that we as a people have kind of glossed over or gotten distracted about. And we don't look deeply at things. And that's not my way. So my way is, how's this working? And that's not working. And why? How and why? Those are the two questions that have structured my entire life. I try not to jump down anybody's throat, but then I use that awareness in what I teach and what I write and what I talk about.
Yeah. And I love the way that you, as well, towards the beginning of the book, you get people to answer personal questions about their physical self,
Yeah,
about their intellectual self, about their emotional self, so
yeah,
that you get a measure of where you're. I mean, it's just such an
yeah.
excellent book. Yeah.
It starts right out with here we are. We're in this body. And I think in the beginning, I asked questions as blunt as, how much do you weigh? Do you like that weight? How much would you like to weigh? In not having, you don't have to defend anything. You just have to be aware of how you are and what you're hiding behind or what you're hiding from. So the questions are, that's all part of it. And then I also tried to put sections in. One of the sections was, I took it from my own website. I often ask people, well, what do you want? What do you want in the world? And they're like, well, I don't know, but they'll be able to say what they don't want. So then I thought, you know what, I'm going to be so bold as to say, this is what I want. And so I put that whole list of things I want. And it's, I don't know, it's quite a few pages. But it's in the section on humanity. There's 83 things that I want in our new world. That's how I want the world to work. So that idea of, this is what I want, copy. Go ahead and copy.
Penny, share a few of those things, and let's get people online to share some of the things that they want. Let's really get this moving. Let's get the fire under people's feet. So yeah.
Okay, I'll pick out a few here. I want a world of great and stunning beauty in a solar system where the sun is young and waxing. I want a world in which people see and experience their own power to choose a response instead of being sucked into overreaction. I want a world of excellent communication and cooperation among plants, animals, and people. I want a world of luxury. We don't have to go back into struggle and suffering. I want a world of luxury in every detail that surrounds us, whether that is home, equipment, transport, or some other environment. One of the things about the advanced civilizations is that they surround themselves with exquisitely beautiful and high energy stuff. Whether that's walls or floors or doorknobs or stair railings or light fixtures or whatever. So I want a world where learning to be clairvoyant, clairaudient, psychokinetic, and telepathic is essential for every individual, everybody. I want a world where people know the thrill of working as one mind in real life situations. I want a world where individuals are self-regulating and self-governing. We have a system that is so based on somebody else is in power that right from the minute you're born, you're steeped in that concept that somebody else is in power.
Yeah, with everything, in education, in medicine. I mean, everywhere you go, somebody else has the power.
Yeah. Oh, see, Kenny, very good. I want a world where kindness and compassion is how we treat one another. Yes, now that's fourth dimensional, 100%. So I'll say a couple more. I want a world where the ability to shift one's frequency matrix, that's what you're made of, is the basis of travel to other times and other places in the cosmos. Okay? I want a world where celebrations do not include partial destruction or even temporary dysfunction of the human physiological system. In other words, it isn't fun to get drunk or to get high unless you're really getting high on frequencies. I want a world where the neighborhood, quote unquote, includes the entire solar system, especially the sun, and the neighbors are the collection of humanoid races who share that system. I want a world where slavery does not exist, but service does. And a couple more. I want a world where the great presence of love is recognized and honored. The main characteristic of Source is the force that we call love. Why don't we feel that? We're made of it. I want a world where eyesight, hearing, and balance are corrected and maintained from birth onward. Everything is corrected and maintained. So nobody gets sick, old, disabled, falling apart, degenerated, all that kind of stuff. I want a world where each child is carefully monitored to ascertain his or her natural gifts, so these can be brought to full function and even genius over the course of the life. I want a world where music is carefully composed to promote joy, creativity, and inner perception. I want a world where dance is designed to enhance awareness and deep perception of others. And those two things, music and dance, in the advanced peoples, that is how they use music and dance. I want a world where war is avoided like the plague it is. And lastly, I want a world where people see change as necessary and even good, and do not get upset, but instead move forward quietly to create a new world populated by awakened humans. So,
wow. Thank you, Penny.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's some steps in here, steps to becoming a new human. There's all kinds of pieces that, the steps to reinventing our world. They're not difficult, and they're easy to manage. If you're trying to pull a community together, let's say next year or next month or 5 years from now, you need to know the stages that group will go through, and then you can navigate and the thing doesn't fall apart. So those steps for creating a new or inventing a new world, those are in there. So there's 10 steps, so it's not overwhelming. So there's just all kinds of pieces. And I'll say this. The bottom line is that we want a successful world, a world of joyful productivity. Failure to mature, hang on, I skipped a sentence. As we look around at the people, places, businesses, and interactions between and among us, it's obvious that the absolute most pressing difficulty we must face is the failure of the human race to mature properly. Failure to mature is like having a crop in the field that never blossoms and sets fruit. Why? There are many reasons. Perhaps they're trying to grow in a climate that doesn't have the appropriate conditions, such as freedom and community. Maybe they're beset by storms, also known as wars, that create damaging and discouraging conditions, such as poor education and gaslighting. Perhaps they experience drought or flood and must cut back on their creativity because they either don't have enough of what they need, materials, experience, perspective, to finish developing, or they've been swamped by too much of the wrong information, also known as propaganda, and cannot function, which is critical thinking, in an effective manner. So those are just a few, sentences and few thoughts from the book. So,
Oh, thank you, Penny. It's incredibly inspiring, and I can feel that people are really excited. Yeah, you're really creating a fire of excitement here, and hopefully,
Good.
action. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It sounds like your world is a beautiful place. I'll gladly live there. Yeah, actually, I've already started on the next book, and I'm going to talk about how my people from not my people, that might require more explanation, but they came and said, help us create this new earth, and set it up. And so I started going there 43 years ago, and have been, there was a long space in the middle where I just was like, what am I supposed to do with all that? But now I am actively visiting and setting things in motion, and learning, understanding how does this kind of world operate. I'll share my visits to what I call the New Earth in the next book. So,
Wow. This is, yeah. Wow. Thank you, Penny. I mean, just to let everybody know here, because I do think this book is a must read. There is an offer right now for the next week. You're going to get a 10% discount with the code BRCAPenny10.
right.
So,
Yeah,
do you want to hold the book up one more time, Penny?
sure. Yeah, you can,
Thank
if
you.
you get it on Amazon, there's no discount. But if you get it from my website where you can download a PDF, then you get 10% off. I don't have any control over Amazon. So that's just the way life is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
But there's so much. As you said, there's a lot of talk, but not a lot of real solid action.
right.
And what you're giving people here is a bit like the astrology gives us a roadmap, and you're
That's
giving us a very tangible roadmap.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Is,
goal, really.
yeah,
And
which
I'm
is
delighted to hear that the astrology is shifting.
huge. It's a mega shift
Yeah,
that I hadn't picked up on until very recently. I've only just picked up on. It was like, really? And I don't see very many astrologers yet talking about it. I think it's going to be a big topic, but it is
okay.
very, very big. And
All right.
how can I say? We've spent our lives focused very much, if you look at astrology generally, about Pluto and
Yeah,
Saturn and Mars. You hear a lot, and Chiron, and
yeah,
these are all heavy planets, right?
yeah,
It's heavy energy.
right,
You get exhausted just thinking about them. Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, and there's aggression, and there's trauma, and there's the past, and there's wars, and there's
right.
aliens and conspiracies. Yeah, it's all blah.
Yeah,
And
I know.
suddenly there is a window opening to this Venus energy.
Wow.
It's like a door is opening, and it's a big shift, very big. It's happening gradually, and it's as you say, Penny. It's not suddenly where butterflies and everybody's la 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 la. There's work to be done.
Yeah,
Yes,
work. Yeah,
and that's really what you're talking about here. There's effort to be made,
yeah,
but there's a
right,
new music coming in. Yes, Mozart's music, for example, much of it, particularly the piano sonatas, are based on the Fibonacci sequence. Yeah, the
right.
number of bars, the number of the sacred geometry, the golden mean.
Yep.
So, and this was at that time he was writing, this is now this energetic cycle coming back with the Venus energy. So I just,
Okay. That is just such good news because we cannot, the effort to change consciousness without the support of the energies of the universe is like trying to swim upstream when the river is at full flood. You're going downstream no matter how fast you're paddling. So that really, I don't know that I think people do understand energy to some extent, but it's where everything is at. When you read the science chapter in the revival, you get a taste of that. and that understanding of plasma and how that works. And here's the thing, plasma responds directly to consciousness. So one of the things that we have to understand is that the body is really listening. I mean, there have been movies and books and videos and people talking about, hey, look at what happens to water when you say I love you, or you know what happens over here, or blah blah blah. In the research that we did in the lab, not only did water change its structure and its frequency signal, it became more communicative when you communicated with it. So, and then we figured out how to tap into the consciousness of the global planet in order to see what was happening at the macro scale. And then there's all of Cliff High's work. He was the one who was tracking, what are we talking about? And, you know, if you don't think what you're talking about creates reality, you go look at Cliff High's work for 20 years. Holy cow. I mean, we have been predicting our own future without knowing it for, 20 years. And that's, we have to, at some point, take responsibility for that. We have to realize what we're talking about is what we're creating. So the gossip, yeah, it's interesting. You know, the dramatic headlines, yeah, they shake people. But what about what we're creating?
Oh, Penny, absolutely on the money. You really are. It's just, yes. Kelly Stewart, what a great comment. Your heart soars when you two ladies are on. That's wonderful. Well, I think we're just inspiring everybody here, Penny. Yeah. And it's just, Maria's asking, it'd be great to have a meetup group where we could meet and discuss these topics.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, it's really meant, the book is meant to be used by groups who come together and say, well, let's talk about this. And, and I think if you are in a group that is supportive, it's easier to face some of the truths about the self, because there's no point in blame. That's useless. I mean, we do want to take responsibility because that's where power comes from, is in the willingness to take responsibility. But that whole guilt trip, shame, blame, that's useless. So, yeah. Gosh. Yeah, I hope it is timely. Thanks, Kathy. I want, this is a book for this time. And hopefully it'll have some impact. I don't advertise my books at all. I never have. They do what they're going to do. My attitude is, well, the people that are meant to read them are going to find them. They're going to run into them. And I've heard some really funny stories about how people came across my books. So hopefully what we'll have as we move through this next cycle, the 7-year cycle, is things move in cycles, 3.5 and up and then 3.5 down. That I hope what we'll have is something to hang on to, and something where we can look at what's falling apart and say, yeah, that's really inconvenient, but let it go. We don't want that. We want this over here. And I'm hoping, actually, in the New Earth book, to be able to pull together the people and the organizations that are building the new structures, support structures for the new Earth, new human. So there are alternative systems out there: education, medicine, governance, money, business, science, the arts, all of them, religion, especially religion. Religion takes a pretty big hit. And so, don't freak out. At some of the things I say about religion, it's, I like religion, but I'm not religious. I like government, but I'm apolitical. That kind of thing. I'm just looking at it going, wow, Do you see what I see? That kind of thing. So, yeah. So Marie says, will we be able to get updates free of charge or an easy update download? I think so. And I think the only thing that's going to be updated is the typos. So you really don't need to buy a new book just to have your typos corrected. And this document, this is not the complete one, but the third, fourth, and fifth dimensional document, I think I'm going to put that on my website, and you can download that if you bought the original book without this chart in it. And I continue to update this each time I go somewhere and visit and learn something new. I come back and write, okay, this is what they seem to be doing differently. Then I'll go back and check. And so this will get updated on my website. So you'll be able to kind of keep up with what are the differences between third, fourth, and fifth dimensions. The fifth dimensional systems are they're pretty amazing. They are very amazing. So.
Thank you, Penny. And perhaps, Daphne, if you'd like to just show some links from Penny's website, because it's a beautiful website, and also Penny runs intuition series. There's some.
Yeah. Well, let me say something about that. Actually, this book, I didn't plan it like this, but I wrote a small book called the Planet Earth book. Yeah, it's that one in the middle. And it really, this book follows that Planet Earth book, and the next one is going to be about the New Earth. And so what I'm realizing is I have created a small series on the Planet Earth. You know, what are we doing here? And so that, you know, be aware that that Planet Earth book is kind of like the first book that really goes in depth to look at what are we being asked to believe? What are we being asked to accept? And I look in depth at some of the key figures and key people and key stories, the narrative in that we're seeing and hearing in the world today. So that's the books are really like a primer. Is that how I say that? Primer for people that are building the new world. So, and then I do have classes. I have a tea and consciousness that happens for the classes, and the tea, you have to go to my website to register. I've been doing these tea and consciousness things for, I don't know, maybe a year more, maybe a year and a half. And we get on, it was supposed to be a conversation, you know, between me and other people, but people very quickly discovered my intuitive abilities. And so they started asking questions, and now it's become a, you know, can I have 5 minutes to ask a question? So we get on, and there's typically going to be about 20 people, and you have 5 minutes to ask a question, maybe 6 at the most. And we're experimenting in November with a new format in which we're going to have less people, 12 people, and you have 10 minutes to be able to ask questions and discuss. And I'll just do what I can with my intuition in that 10 minutes. So that's, you know, that's ongoing. There's a couple of teas every month that are just for Americans or people in our time zone. And then there's one that is in the afternoon, and that's for people on the other side of the world. So, and they do sell out very quickly. If you want to sign up for a tea,
90 seconds.
Yeah, and they sell out in 90 seconds every week, every time. So you have to be ready to hit the button. And so I think, you know, those things are available. When you get in the books that we're showing, the Getting Well Naturally book is based on information. It is that is really and products to do some of the healing procedures and detox. If you're in the U.S., Well, a lot of people have read it, and they're not in the U.S. and we don't have uniform laws and uniform production of material and stuff. And so, if you are in another country and you want to do some detox, then go to this page on my website where you can download the detox equivalent sheet. In other words, there's some substitutions in there that people can get in other countries to do the detox in order to reverse degeneration and start building health. So, and then there's a diabetes protocol and a basic healing and rebuilding program. If you want to get healthy, and you should start at least no later than 55. It's a little bit, the earlier you start, the easier it is to just not get old and not get falling apart. And that basic healing and rebuilding includes all the steps that you need to be aware of, and what goes into a full healing and full rebuild. So, yeah, and those are free. You can download from my website anytime. So, I think one of the things, this is my Patreon channel. I put stuff, actually, it's not me. I just talk and teach, etc. And my wonderful team, Daphne and Elsa, and a couple other people, really put stuff up on YouTube, on Odyssey, on BitChute, on Rumble, on a bunch of podcasts. So those are available. And I think, the Patreon is where everything is. If you're not on Patreon, which I've tried to keep it so that it's affordable by everybody, then you really have to go digging around, scrounging to see, okay, what did she say? Where did she talk? Or, that kind of thing. But everything is pretty much on Patreon, and I'm still assembling things there. I'm trying to get our quartet talks there, and quartet is a thing that I do every 2 weeks with John Peterson, Kingsley Dennis, and Greg Braden, and we have a 1-hour conversation on some pretty deep subject, and they're always interesting. So I'm trying to get those on Patreon as well. So I think I'm not sure what else. Let me mention. I have for years done a look-see. I started just doing it for myself, and then I started putting that out on Patreon. And it's a look at what's coming. What do I see clairvoyantly over the next month or so, couple months? And just recently, I started adding a type of look-see that I will call news and commentary and analysis. And I got to this point where I thought it's not as helpful to just be predicting or saying, this is what I see coming, this is what I see happening, as it is to look at what is happening, what are the real things happening, and how do I look at that? How do I see that? A lot of people have asked me, how do you see the world? Or, where did you get that perception or that idea or whatever? So this news and commentary look-see is really a look-see combined with what's happening in the real world around the planet. So those are all the things I'm doing. So it's...
Wow. Penny, you are amazing. You really are. And the quality of your work, the quality of everything you put out, and the consciousness that you bring to it is really amazing. So thank you.
I think it was Daphne I was talking with recently, or somebody, maybe it was you, I don't know, but I'll just say when you wait 70 years to say what you have to say, you pretty much know what you want to say, and you've worked out a lot of bugs. And so I'm just dumping, stuff that I've been working on for 40 years. And so
it's amazing dumping. All right. It's pretty special. I'm not sure I'd call it dumping, but I would call it something, that you are spreading your fragrance of knowledge.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like
that. All right. That's really what you're doing.
Yeah.
'Cause I think we've got connotations with dump that are not so friendly.
Okay.
But you really bring something, really beautiful. And
Yeah.
just extremely grateful to you for coming on again. And I hope that you will bless us with your presence again.
Oh, I will.
I can
Yes.
see a lot of people have already ordered your book. Lots of people have said ordered, paid. So a lot of
Oh,
people have already ordered. I'd
okay.
like
Good.
to thank Radhika, who's a wonderful moderator, been really helping in the chat. She's terrific. She just, has posted all sorts of things as the chat has gone by. So thank you, Radhika. You're a star, and she does the timestamps afterwards. So she's a
Yeah.
star. And
Let me just mention, I'm sorry for interrupting. I want to share before I forget. Daphne and I are going to do a series of short videos on each sector of the revival. And that's coming up toward the end. We're going to start toward the end of October, but you can be looking for that and commenting on that. And I'll be looking to engage where I have time in see what are the questions, the thoughts. So just be aware that we have 12 little videos that are planned, one for each sector. So that's coming. Okay.
So many goodies coming, and so many goodies that you can get now. Yes. So really, thank you so much, Penny. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Okay. You know what? You're just one of the joys of life, Braca. So it is a pleasure to be. Oh my God. Yeah.
It's a pleasure. I always look forward to it. It's like, oh, Penny this week. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So really, thank you very, very much. So thank you. And looking forward, really, I hope you're going to get a lot of wonderful feedback from this book. It's a very special book.
Good.
And thank you for your love, your passion, your energy, your frequency.
Oh, you're welcome. All of that. Go to YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel. I have two of them, in fact. The first one is I Say to Myself, and the other one is just Penny Kelly, just my name. So, if you having a blue day, I tell it like it is, but I try to tell it like it is in such a way that you can handle it and feel like you have some power to do something.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
thank you so much, Penny.
Yes.
Thank you, Daphne, for everything you do in the background. Daphne is amazing.
Yeah.
Where's Penny gone? I think she's gone.
Who? Oh, are we frozen?
You're back.
Okay.
You're back. You disappeared briefly.
Oh,
she's
okay.
back. That's lovely. You went to the other New Earth briefly, didn't you? We know where you were off to. That's what you were doing.
No, I think it was a glitch, honestly.
Okay. Thank you so much. Really, much love. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to everybody. And Radhika, did I say that name, Radhika? Yeah, thank you.
She's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.